The maintenance bay smelled like grease and hot metal. Dae-hyun wiped sweat from his forehead and stared at the coolant system he had been fixing for the past 3 hours. His hands were dirty, his back hurt, and he wanted nothing more than a hot shower in his bed. But the job was almost done, and he took pride in finishing what he started. He reached for his thermos and poured himself a cup of coffee. The bitter smell filled his nose, and he smiled. It was not fancy coffee from the expensive shops on the upper levels of the station. This was the cheap stuff he made himself in his tiny apartment. But it was hot, and it was his, and that made it perfect. Through the open door of the bay, he could see the marketplace. Orbital Station Nexus 7 was always busy, always loud. Aliens of dozens of species walked past, carrying goods, arguing about prices, laughing with friends. Dae-hyun had worked here for 5 years now, and he still found the variety amazing. Dragonkin with their shimmering scales, Velcros with their 4 arms, beings he could not even name. That was when he saw her. She was clearly Dragonkin, but unlike any he had seen before. Her scales had an opalescent quality, shifting colors in the light like oil on water. She wore robes that had once been fine but were now torn and stained. She stood in the middle of the marketplace, turning in slow circles, looking at the station maps with growing confusion. Dae-hyun watched her for a moment. She looked lost. More than that, she looked scared. Her hands trembled as she touched the translator device on her collar. The device sparked and she flinched. He knew he should mind his own business. The station had thousands of people passing through every day. Not his problem. He had work to finish, but something about the way she stood there, so clearly out of her depth, reminded him of his first day on the station. He had been lost too. A kind Velcros merchant had helped him find his way. With a sigh, Dae-hyun set down his tools and walked toward her. "Excuse me," he said in common, the language most species used for trade. "Do you need help?" She turned to him quickly, her eyes wide. Up close, he could see she was young, maybe equivalent to early 20s in human years. Her translator sparked again, and she winced. When she spoke, her words came out garbled and broken. Where is... The device gave up entirely, emitting a high-pitched whine before going silent. Dae-hyun held up his hands in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. He pointed to himself. "Dae-hyun." Then he pointed to her and raised his eyebrows in question. She seemed to understand. "Hana," she said softly. He nodded and pulled out his own small tablet, bringing up a simple translation program. It was basic, but better than nothing. He typed slowly. "Are you lost?" She read it and nodded, relief flooding her face. She tried to type a response, but her hands were shaking too much. She stopped, closed her eyes, and took a deep breath. That was when Dae-hyun noticed how exhausted she looked. Her scales, which should have been vibrant, seemed dull. There were dark circles under her eyes. She swayed slightly on her feet. Without thinking, he unscrewed the cap of his thermos and poured coffee into the small cup that served as a lid. He held it out to her. "Here," he said, gently miming drinking. "You look like you need this." Hana stared at the cup. Her eyes went even wider, if that was possible. She looked from the cup to his face and back again. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Around them, the marketplace had gone quiet. Dae-hyun did not notice at first. He was focused on Hana, concerned she might faint. But then he realized he could not hear the usual chatter and noise. He looked around. Every alien in sight had stopped moving. A Velcros trader stood frozen, a crate of goods slipping from his arms. It hit the ground with a crash that echoed in the sudden silence. Station security officers had their hands on their weapons. A group of Dragonkin merchants stood with their mouths open. Everyone was staring at him and Hana. "What?" Dae-hyun said, confused. "It's just coffee." Hana's hands came up slowly, trembling even more now. She wrapped her fingers around the cup, taking it from him. The coffee was still hot and steam rose between them. She brought the cup to her lips and took a small sip. Someone in the crowd actually gasped. Dae-hyun heard running footsteps. A well-dressed Dragonkin male pushed through the frozen crowd. He wore the kind of formal clothes that spoke of money and status. His scales were a deep blue and his face showed a mixture of shock and horror. The male started speaking rapidly in a language Dae-hyun did not understand. Hana responded, her voice quiet but firm. The male gestured wildly, pointing at Dae-hyun, at the cup, at the crowd. Hana just shook her head and took another sip of coffee. The male turned to Dae-hyun. He spoke in heavily accented common. "Do you have any idea what you have just done, human?" "I gave her coffee." Daehyun said, feeling like he had missed something very important. She looked tired. It's just a hot drink. I was trying to help. Just a hot drink, the male repeated as if the words made no sense. He looked at Hana again, spoke more in their language. She responded calmly, still holding the cup with both hands. The male put his hand over his face and laughed, but it was not a happy sound. It was the laugh of someone who could not believe what was happening. My name is Taemin, he said finally, looking at Daehyun. I am advisor to the royal family. And you, human mechanic, have just accepted food from Princess Hana of the Celestial Talon dynasty. Princess? Daehyun looked at Hana again. The torn robe suddenly made more sense. I didn't. She just looked lost. I was helping. By offering her coffee, Taemin said slowly. Do you know what that means to Dragonkin? No, Daehyun admitted. Should I? Taemin looked at the sky as if asking for patience from whatever gods he believed in. Among our people, accepting food or drink from another is sacred. It creates a bond. For royalty, it means much more. It can mean alliance. It can mean courtship. It can mean adoption into clan protection. And no Dragonkin royal has accepted such an offer from an alien species in over 2,000 years. Daehyun felt his stomach drop. I didn't know. I was just being polite. She can give the coffee back. We can forget this happened. No, Hana said. It was the first word she had spoken that Daehyun could understand clearly. She looked at him and her eyes were fierce. No, I accepted. I chose. But you don't understand, Daehyun said. I'm nobody. I fix cooling systems and pipe leaks. I live in the apartment the size of a closet. I don't know anything about royalty or bonds or politics. I know, Hana said softly. She finished the coffee and handed the cup back to him. That is why I accepted. Station security was moving now, surrounding them. Daehyun saw his boss, Bora, pushing through the crowd. She was the station administrator, and she looked like she was about to have a heart attack. Daehyun, she said, her voice tight. I need you to come with me. Right now. We have a situation. I just gave her coffee, he protested weakly. Taemin laughed again, that same disbelieving sound. Yes, you just gave her coffee. And now the entire galaxy is going to hear about it. In the distance, alarms began to sound. New ships were arriving at the station. Big ships, military ships. Through the windows, Daehyun could see the running lights of a Dragonkin fleet dropping out of hyperspace. He looked at his empty thermos, then at Hana, then at the fleet outside. I should have just stayed in the maintenance bay, he muttered. But as security led him away, with Hana walking beside him and Taemin following, he noticed something. Hana was smiling. It was small and sad, but it was real, and for some reason he could not explain. That made him feel like maybe offering that coffee had not been a mistake after all, even if it was about to turn his entire life upside down. The conference room was too cold and too quiet. Daehyun sat in a chair that was not made for humans, trying not to fidget. Across the table, Taemin paced back and forth, his scales shifting from blue to darker shades as his mood changed. Hana sat in the corner, calm and still, watching everything with those strange, color-shifting eyes. Bora stood by the window looking out at the Dragonkin fleet. There were 12 ships now, ranging from small fighters to massive cruisers. They hung in space like jewels, beautiful and terrifying. Explain it to me again, Bora said, not turning from the window. Slowly, because I need to understand exactly how badly we are in trouble. Taemin stopped pacing. He looked tired. Among Dragonkin, sharing food or drink is not casual. It has not been casual for thousands of years. It is a ritual, a bond. When a royal accepts food or drink from someone, it means they trust that person completely. It means they are willing to enter into obligation with them. But I didn't know that, Daehyun said for the 10th time. I'm human. We share food and drinks with strangers all the time. It's just being friendly. I know, Taemin said. And that is part of the problem. If you had known our customs and offered anyway, it would be an insult. A trick, but you did not know. You offered with no agenda, no plan, just kindness. How is that a problem? Bora asked. Because it is impossible, Taemin said simply. In Dragonkin society, everything is calculated. Every gesture has meaning. Every word has purpose. The idea of doing something kind for a stranger, expecting nothing in return, is so foreign to us that we have no framework for it. Daehyun rubbed his face. So what happens now? Before Taemin could answer, the door opened. 2 Dragonkin guards entered, their armor gleaming. Behind them came a female Dragonkin, who made everyone else in the room seem small. Her scales were deep crimson with edges of platinum. She wore robes that probably cost more than Dae-hyun would make in his entire life. Power radiated from her like heat from a star. Everyone stood. Even Dae-hyun, who had no idea who this was, felt compelled to stand. Hana bowed deeply. Mother. Dae-hyun felt his stomach twist. This was the Empress, the ruler of the entire Celestial Talon dynasty. And she was looking at him like he was a bug she was deciding whether to step on. Sit, Empress Nari said. Her voice was cold and sharp. Everyone sat. She moved to the head of the table, her eyes never leaving Dae-hyun. You are the human who gave my daughter coffee. It was not a question, but Dae-hyun answered anyway. Yes, ma'am. Your Majesty, I don't know the right title, sorry. Empress will do, Nari said. She sat and somehow made the station furniture look like a throne. Tell me why. Why I gave her coffee. Yes, Dae-hyun swallowed. She looked lost and tired. Where I come from, when you see someone having a bad day, you offer them something warm to drink. It's just what you do. I didn't mean any disrespect to your culture. I didn't know. He is telling the truth, Hana said quietly. I could see it in his face. He had no idea what it meant. Nari's eyes shifted to her daughter. And yet you accepted, you knew. You understood perfectly what it would mean. Yes, Hana said. Why? Hana was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice steady. I have been offered many things in my life, Mother. Power, wealth, alliances, every offer came with strings. Every gift had a price. And then this human offered me coffee with no agenda, no calculation, just because I looked like I needed it. When has anyone ever done that? Nari studied her daughter, then turned back to Dae-hyun. My daughter fled an arranged marriage 3 days ago. Did you know this? No, Dae-hyun said honestly. She was to marry Warlord Ryung of the Iron Scale clan. The marriage would have prevented a civil war. It would have brought peace to disputed territories. It would have secured trade routes that feed billions. And she ran away. Dae-hyun looked at Hana. She met his gaze without shame. The warlord she was supposed to marry, Dae-hyun said carefully. Is he a good man? He is powerful, Nari said. That's not what I asked. The room went very quiet. Bor made a small sound of panic. Taemin closed his eyes. But Nari just smiled, and it was not a kind smile. No, the Empress said. He is not a good man. He is brutal and ambitious and cares nothing for those he rules. But he controls resources we need. His military strength balances our enemies. Personal feelings are irrelevant to such matters. They're not irrelevant to her, Dae-hyun said, and immediately wished he could take the words back. You did not argue with empresses. But he had already started, so he continued. She's a person, not a chess piece. She is a princess, Nari said coldly. That is precisely what she is. A piece to be played for the good of the kingdom. In my culture, we have a saying, Dae-hyun said. People are not property. Not even royal people, Nari leaned forward. And in your culture, do mechanics often lecture empresses on duty and responsibility? No, Dae-hyun admitted. But I'm having a really weird day. Despite everything, Taemin made a sound that might have been a suppressed laugh. Even Hana's lips twitched. Nari just stared at him, her face unreadable. My daughter has accepted your offer, the Empress said finally. By our oldest laws, that bond cannot be broken. It can only be honored or betrayed. So I must decide what to do with you. I don't want anything, Dae-hyun said quickly. I don't want money or status or political favors. I just want to go back to fixing cooling systems. Unfortunately for you, that is no longer possible. You are part of this now, whether you wish it or not. An alarm sounded. Bora's tablet lit up with urgent messages. She looked at the screen and went pale. What is it? Nari asked, her voice sharp. Another fleet just arrived, Bora said. Iron Scale Clan, 12 warships. They're demanding we turn over Princess Hana immediately. Ryung, Hana whispered. And for the first time, Dae-hyun saw real fear in her eyes. Taemin was already moving to the window. He must have been tracking her. He probably has spies on the station. Nari stood, her calm facade cracking slightly. He cannot have her. I will not allow it. With respect, Empress, Bora said, her voice shaking. If 2 dragonkin fleets start fighting near my station, thousands of people will die. I have civilians here. Families. Children. Then convince Ryung to leave peacefully, Nari said. I don't think he's in a peaceful mood, Taemin said, reading a message on his own device. He's broadcasting a message now. He says any who harbor his stolen bride are committing an act of war. He specifically mentions the human who dared interfere. Daehyun felt everyone's eyes turn to him. He knows about me already? News travels fast in Dragonkin circles, Taemin said. You offered coffee to a princess and she accepted. That is the most interesting thing to happen in Dragonkin politics in a century. Everyone knows another message came through. Bora read it and looked like she might be sick. Ryung is giving us one station cycle. 24 hours. We either surrender Hana to him or he will take her by force. And he says Daehyun will be executed as an example. The room went silent. Hana stood up abruptly. No, I will go to him. I will not let innocent people die because of me. And I will not let him hurt someone who showed me kindness. You will do no such thing, Nari said firmly. Mother, there is no other choice. There is always another choice. Daehyun stood up too, his mind racing. He thought about problems the way he thought about broken machines. Every problem had a solution. You just had to find it. What does Ryung actually want? He asked. Everyone looked at him. What does he want? Daehyun repeated. Not what he says he wants. What does he really want? Taemin frowned, thinking. Power, resources, control of the disputed territories. The marriage to Hana would give him legitimacy, and political connections he lacks. So he doesn't actually want Hana specifically. He wants what the marriage would give him, that is, correct? Nari said slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. Then we give him those things another way, Daehyun said. Without the marriage, how? Bora asked. Daehyun looked at the Empress. I don't know Dragonkin politics, but I know humans are good at making deals. What if humanity offered Ryung a trade partnership, direct access to our markets and technology? Would that give him the same benefits? Nari sat back down slowly, her expression thoughtful. It might. It would give him economic power and prestige, perhaps even more than the marriage would. Then we offer him that, in exchange for releasing Hana from the marriage contract. It is not that simple, Taemin said. Even if the economics work, Ryung's pride has been wounded. He will not simply accept a trade offer and leave. So what will he accept? Daehyun asked. Taemin and Nari exchanged a look. They both seemed to come to the same conclusion at the same time. A challenge, Nari said quietly. He will demand a champion's challenge. It is traditional. What does that mean? Daehyun asked, though he had a sinking feeling he already knew. It means personal combat, Taemin explained. Not to the death, but to first yield. If you truly believe in your proposal, you must be willing to defend it with your own strength. Me? Daehyun said. Fight Ryung? He's a warlord. I'm a mechanic. Yes, Nari said. And there was something like respect in her eyes now. But you are the one who created this bond. You are the one who offered kindness to my daughter. If anyone is to champion this solution, it must be you. Daehyun looked at Hana. She was staring at him with wide eyes, shaking her head. Don't, she said, please. I'm not worth your life. He thought about that, thought about going back to his small apartment and his quiet life, thought about walking away and letting someone else deal with this mess. Then he thought about Hana, standing lost in the marketplace. He thought about the small smile she had given him when she finished his coffee. I'll do it, he said. Daehyun, no, Bora said. This is insane. Probably, he agreed. But I offered her coffee. I made a choice then. Can't unmake it now. Nari stood and walked to him. She looked him in the eyes, and he forced himself not to look away. You are either the bravest human I have ever met, she said, or the most foolish. Can't I be both? Daehyun asked weakly. For the first time, the Empress smiled. It was small, but it was real. Perhaps you can, she said. Very well. We will offer Ryung the deal, and when he demands his challenge, you will face him. As everyone began talking at once, making plans and sending messages, Daehyun sat back down. His hands were shaking. What had he just agreed to? Hana came and sat beside him. She did not say anything, just sat there. After a moment, she reached out and took his hand. Her scales were warm against his skin. Thank you, she whispered. Daehyun squeezed her hand gently. Don't thank me yet. I might be about to die. Then thank you for trying. Outside the window, two fleets faced each other across the void, and somewhere on one of those ships a warlord waited for his answer. Daehyun had 24 hours to prepare for a fight he could not possibly win. He really should have stayed in the maintenance bay. The training room was not meant for humans. The gravity was set too high, the air too thin, the equipment too large. But Daehyun did not complain. He had 18 hours left before the challenge, and complaining would not make him any stronger. Kwan, the station security chief, watched him try to lift a training staff. The human woman was in her 50s, gray-haired and tough as steel. She had served in the Earth Defense Forces before retiring to station security. If anyone could teach him how to not die immediately, it was her. "Stop," she said. "You're holding it wrong." Daehyun lowered the staff. Sweat dripped down his face. "I'm holding it the way you showed me. I showed you how a soldier holds it. You're not a soldier. You're a mechanic." Kwan walked over and adjusted his grip. "Fight like what you are, not what you're not." "I don't understand." "Ryung is a warrior. He's trained for combat his whole life. You can't beat him at his own game. So don't play his game." She tapped his head. "Use this instead of muscles. Use my brain to fight. You fix broken things for a living. Machines break in predictable ways. Find the pattern, find the weakness. A fighter is just a biological machine. He'll have patterns too." Daehyun thought about that. It made a strange kind of sense. "So I should look for his weaknesses?" "Everyone has weaknesses. Even warlords. Especially proud warlords." Kwan smiled grimly. "Arrogance is a weakness. So is anger. If you can make him angry, he'll make mistakes. How do I make a dragonkin warlord angry? Don't die quickly. Nothing makes a bully angrier than prey that won't stay down." It was not encouraging advice, but Daehyun appreciated her honesty. The door opened. Taemin entered, followed by a hunched figure in a patched coat. The figure had forearms and gray skin. A Velcros. Daehyun recognized him as one of the marketplace merchants. "This is Kiro," Taemin said. "He fought in the sector wars. He has agreed to help." The old Velcros looked Daehyun up and down with his large black eyes. "You're the human who gave coffee to the princess." "That's me. Stupid thing to do. So I've been told." Kiro's face cracked into what might have been a smile. "I like stupid brave better than smart coward. Let me see you move." For the next 3 hours, Kiro put Daehyun through exercises that made his muscles scream. The Velcros had him dodge, roll, fall, and get back up again. "Over and over. Why am I falling so much?" Daehyun gasped. "Because you'll fall in the fight, many times. The difference between living and dying is how fast you get back up." By the time they called a break, Daehyun could barely stand. He sat on the floor drinking water, every part of his body hurting. Hana appeared in the doorway. She had changed into simple clothes, no longer wearing royal robes. She looked younger this way, more normal. "You should be resting," she said, sitting beside him. "I'll rest when I'm dead, which might be soon." "Don't say that. It's true, though. I'm going to fight a warlord with centuries of experience. The best I can hope for is to last long enough that people remember I tried." Hana was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "My brother died in combat. He was a great warrior, trained since childhood, the best of the best, and he still lost. That's not making me feel better. I'm not trying to make you feel better. I'm trying to tell you that combat isn't just about skill. My brother was skilled, but he was also arrogant. He thought he couldn't lose, and that's what killed him." Daehyun looked at her. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying Ryung is the same. He's never lost. He doesn't think he can lose, especially not to a human mechanic. He'll underestimate you. That's your advantage. My advantage is that he thinks I'm weak. Your advantage is that he's right, but you don't fight like you are." Hana touched his shoulder gently. "You fight like someone who has something worth fighting for." Before Daehyun could respond, Bora rushed in with a tablet. "We sent the proposal to Ryung, the trade partnership offer." "And?" Taemin asked. "He's considering it. His economic advisors see the value. But..." Bora hesitated. "But he wants his challenge," Daehyun finished. "Yes. He says if you truly believe in your proposal, you'll defend it personally. Single combat in 18 hours. First to yield loses." "Of course he does," Daehyun muttered. Taemin looked troubled. "There's more. He's broadcasting the challenge across subspace. Every major civilization will be watching. He's making this a public spectacle. Why? To humiliate you. To show that humans are weak. To prove that dragonkin might is superior." Taemin's scales darkened with anger. "It's political theater." "Then we make it our theater too," Bora said. She had that look she got when she had an idea. If everyone is watching, we control the message. We show humanity as brave, as honorable, as willing to stand up for what's right even against impossible odds. I like your optimism, Daehyun said, but I still have to actually fight him. Then we make sure you're as prepared as possible. The next 15 hours were brutal. Kwon taught him how to fall without breaking bones. Kiro taught him to watch for tells, tiny movements that showed what an opponent would do next. Taemin brought in young dragonkin guards who showed him basic defensive stances, their respect for him growing as he refused to quit, despite obvious exhaustion. Word spread through the station. Random people began showing up to watch, to help. A human cook brought food. An alien medic taught him breathing exercises to manage pain. Children drew pictures of him fighting a dragon and left them outside the training room. You've become a symbol, Bora told him during a break. People see you as someone standing up to power, someone who chose kindness and is now paying the price. They're rooting for you. No pressure, Daehyun said weakly. Hana stayed nearby the whole time, watching. Sometimes she would offer small suggestions. How dragonkin balanced, where their scales were weakest. She never said it directly, but Daehyun understood. She was helping him find a way to hurt Ryung if he needed to. Finally, with 2 hours left, Kwon called an end to training. That's it, she said. Any more and you'll be too tired to fight. Go rest. I can't rest. I'm too nervous. Then come with me. She led him to a small observation deck overlooking the hangar where the challenge would take place. Workers were setting up the arena. Dragonkin from both fleets had come aboard, filling the stands. Security kept them separated, but tension filled the air like electricity. See that? Kwon pointed to the arena floor. That's where you'll stand. In front of thousands. With everything on the line. You're not helping. I'm not trying to help. I'm trying to prepare you for what you'll feel. Terror. Every instinct will tell you to run. You can't run. So you need to decide now before you step in there that you're going to stand. No matter what. Daehyun watched the preparations. The arena looked huge, too huge. What if I can't? Then you'll die tired instead of fighting. But I don't think you will. You know why? Why? Because you already made the hard choice when you offered that coffee. Everything since then has just been follow-through. She left him there alone with his thoughts. Daehyun sat and watched as the arena took shape. He thought about his small life, his apartment, his tools, his routine. A week ago, his biggest problem was a faulty cooling system. Now he was going to fight a warlord in front of the galaxy. I should have made tea instead, he muttered to himself. Coffee was better. He turned. Hana stood behind him, quiet as always. Couldn't sleep either? He asked. She sat beside him. No, I keep thinking this is my fault. If I had just stayed. If I had married him. None of this would be happening. You'd be miserable, but you'd be safe. Maybe, but I'd also still be the person who walked past someone who needed help. I don't want to be that person. Hana rested her head on his shoulder. It was a surprisingly human gesture. You're very strange, Daehyun. I get that a lot lately. They sat in silence, watching the preparations continue. Dragonkin workers tested the lights. Security ran final checks. The galaxy was watching. I have something for you, Hana said. She pulled out a small object. It was a scale. Her scale. It shimmered with that same opalescent quality. Among my people, warriors carry scales from those they protect. It reminds them why they fight. Daehyun took the scale carefully. It was warm and surprisingly light. I'm not a warrior. No, you're better. You're kind. She closed his hand around the scale. Remember that when you're in there. You're not fighting because you hate Ryung. You're fighting because you care about people. That makes you stronger than he could ever understand. An announcement echoed through the station. 1 hour until the challenge. Taemin appeared, looking nervous. It's time to get ready. We need to go over the rules. Daehyun stood, his legs shaking. This was real. This was happening. The rules are simple, Taemin explained as they walked to the preparation room. First to yield or first to be unable to continue. No killing. No weapons beyond what is provided. Ryung has chosen traditional combat staffs. Of course he has, Daehyun said. He had spent hours training with staffs. He was still terrible with them. The preparation room was small and cold. Kwon helped him into light armor. designed for mobility rather than protection. It would not save him from a serious hit, but it might keep him from breaking ribs. "Remember," she said, fastening the straps. "Pattern recognition, weakness identification, adaptation. You're a mechanic. Fight like one. 30 minutes. Bora came in with news. The broadcast is live. 2 billion beings are watching across a dozen systems. Human media is calling you the Coffee Warrior. That's a terrible name. It's better than the human who's about to die. Work with what you've got." 20 minutes. Empress Nari herself appeared in the doorway. Everyone bowed. She waved them off impatiently. "You understand what's at stake," she said to Daehyun. "Yes, ma'am. If you lose, Ryung takes my daughter. The trade deal dies, and humanity looks weak to the galaxy. No pressure. If you win, you create a new alliance between our peoples. You save my daughter from a terrible fate, and you prove that strength isn't just about power. I'll try not to die quickly." Nari studied him for a long moment. Then, to everyone's shock, she bowed slightly. Just a small incline of her head, but from an empress, it meant everything. "You have my respect, mechanic. Whatever happens in that arena." 10 minutes. Daehyun stood at the entrance to the arena. He could hear the crowd now. Thousands of voices, cheering, chanting, waiting. Hana took his hand one more time. "Come back," she whispered. "I'll try. Promise me." He looked at her and saw real fear in her eyes. Not for herself, for him. "I promise I'll fight like it matters," he said. "That's the best I can do." The doors opened. Sound crashed over him like a wave. Light. Noise. Thousands of faces looking at him. The arena stretched out before him, huge and terrifying. On the opposite side, Ryung waited. The warlord was massive, his scales a deep iron gray that looked like armor. His muscles rippled as he moved. He held his combat staff like it weighed nothing. When he saw Daehyun, he smiled. It was not a nice smile. Daehyun walked to the center of the arena. His legs shook, but he kept walking. The crowd went silent. An official stepped forward and announced the terms. Daehyun barely heard them. He was focused on Ryung, watching how the warlord stood. Looking for patterns. Looking for anything that might help him survive the next few minutes. "Any last words, human?" Ryung asked, his voice carrying across the arena. Daehyun thought about clever responses. About brave speeches. But he was too tired and too scared for that. "I just wanted to give her coffee," he said. Ryung laughed. "Then you should have kept your kindness to yourself." The official raised his hand. The challenge was about to begin. Daehyun gripped his staff. Thought about broken machines and patterns and weaknesses. Thought about Hana's scale in his pocket. Thought about that small smile she had given him in the marketplace. The official's hand dropped. And the fight began. Ryung moved faster than Daehyun expected. The warlord's staff whistled through the air, and Daehyun barely got his own weapon up in time to block. The impact sent shocks through his arms and drove him back 3 steps. The crowd roared. Ryung did not press the advantage. He circled instead, staff held loosely, confident. "That's all? One blow and you stumble? This will be over quickly." Daehyun did not respond. He was trying to remember everything Kiro had taught him. Watch the shoulders. Watch the feet. Dragonkin telegraphed their moves with their whole body if you knew how to look. Another strike came, this time from the left. Daehyun saw the shoulder dip half a second before the staff moved. He dodged instead of blocking, and the staff passed through empty air. The crowd made a different sound this time. Surprise. "Lucky," Ryung said, but his eyes narrowed slightly. They circled each other. Daehyun kept his breathing steady, just like the medic had taught him. In through the nose, out through the mouth, stay calm. Panic killed faster than any weapon. Ryung attacked again, a combination this time. High, low, high. Daehyun blocked the first, dodged the second, but the third caught him in the ribs. Pain exploded through his side and he went down. The crowd noise changed again. Disappointment from the human section. Satisfaction from the dragonkin. "Stay down," Ryung said, not unkindly. "You fought. You have honor. But this is over." Daehyun thought about Kairo's words. Get back up. The difference between living and dying was how fast you got back up. He stood. Ryung's expression darkened. Foolish. The next exchange was brutal. Ryung's staff struck like a snake again and again. Daehyun blocked some attacks, dodged others, but several got through. His shoulder, his leg, his back. Each impact drove the air from his lungs. Each hit sent pain screaming through his nervous system. He fell again. Yield, Ryung commanded. Daehyun got up. Again the staff found him. Again he fell. The arena floor was hard and cold against his face. Blood filled his mouth. He had bitten his tongue. Yield. Ryung's voice had an edge of anger now. Daehyun pushed himself to his hands and knees. Then to his feet. He swayed but stayed upright. In the stands he could see faces. Kwan, her expression fierce. Bora, her hands covering her mouth. Taemin leaning forward with intensity. And Hana, her face pale, tears running down her cheeks. He thought about the coffee cup. About her smile. No, he said. Ryung roared in frustration and charged. But anger made him sloppy. The pattern changed. Instead of controlled strikes, he swung wild. Powerful but predictable, Daehyun saw it. The mechanical part of his brain, the part that looked for patterns in cooling systems and pipe networks, suddenly understood. Ryung favored his right side. He always planted his left foot first before a power strike. His recovery time after a miss was exactly 2 seconds. It was not much. But it was something. The next charge came. Daehyun waited until the last possible moment, then dropped and rolled. Ryung's staff smashed into the floor where he had been standing. The warlord stumbled off balance. 2 seconds, Daehyun swept his staff at Ryung's legs. It was not a powerful strike, but it did not need to be. The warlord was already off balance. He went down hard. The crowd went absolutely silent. Ryung was up in an instant, his face twisted with rage. You dare. I'm still fighting, Daehyun said. His voice came out as a wheeze. Everything hurt. That's all I'm doing. Still fighting. What followed was less a fight and more a lesson in pain. Ryung abandoned all pretense of honor and simply tried to destroy the human in front of him. The staff became a blur of motion. Daehyun's world narrowed to blocking and dodging and falling and getting back up. He lost count of how many times he hit the ground. 5 times, 10, 20. Each time was harder. Each time his body screamed at him to stay down. Each time he got back up anyway. Why? Ryung demanded after the 15th time Daehyun stood. The warlord was breathing hard now, frustrated. Why do you keep getting up? You cannot win. Not trying to win, Daehyun gasped. Blood ran from his nose. His left eye was swelling shut. Just trying not to quit. That's the same thing. No, Daehyun shook his head. Winning means beating you. Not quitting means remembering why I'm here. He attacked. It was a clumsy, desperate combination that Ryung blocked easily. But Daehyun was not trying to land a hit. He was trying to learn, trying to understand the pattern better. Right shoulder dips before vertical strikes. Left foot plants before horizontal. Recovery time exactly 2 seconds. But there was something else. Something he was missing. The fight continued. Minutes became an eternity. Daehyun's vision blurred. His arms felt like lead. His legs trembled with every step. But he kept moving. Kept watching. Kept learning, and then he saw it. Ryung's armor had a weak point. Not in the physical armor he wore, but in his technique. After every 3-strike combination, he paused for half a second. A tiny moment where he reset his stance. It was barely noticeable. A fraction of a heartbeat, but it was there. Daehyun waited. He blocked a high strike, dodged a low one, took a third on his shoulder that made stars explode in his vision. Ryung finished the combination and paused. Half a second, Daehyun lunged forward and jabbed his staff into Ryung's solar plexus. It was not a powerful hit. Daehyun did not have the strength left for powerful hits, but it was accurate. It landed exactly where he meant it to land. Ryung's breath left him in a whoosh. He staggered back, genuinely surprised. The crowd erupted. Daehyun did not celebrate. He was too busy trying not to fall over. His vision was darkening at the edges. He had maybe one more hit left in him before his body gave out entirely. Ryung recovered quickly, but something had changed in his eyes. He was looking at Daehyun differently now. Not with contempt, with something else. You actually landed a hit, the warlord said, and there was wonder in his voice. A human. A mechanic. You actually hit me. Lucky shot, Daehyun managed. No. Ryung shook his head. That was skill. Limited skill. Trained in hours, not years, but skill nonetheless. You saw the opening. You took it. They stood across from each other, both breathing hard. Around them the crowd had gone quiet again, sensing something shifting. I could end this now. Ryung said, 1 strike. You can barely stand, so do it. Why are you doing this? Why do you care so much about a dragonkin princess you just met? Daehyun thought about the question. Through the pain and exhaustion, he tried to find the truth. Because she looked lost, he said finally, and lonely, and scared. And I felt all those things before. Someone helped me once when I was new to the station, a stranger who expected nothing in return. I'm just passing it forward, that's it. You're risking your life for a stranger because someone once helped you? Yes, Ryung stood very still. In all my years of combat, I have fought hundreds of opponents. Warriors, soldiers, champions, every single one of them fought for something selfish. Glory, power, revenge, pride. He lowered his staff slightly. You're fighting for kindness. For a principle. I'm fighting because I gave her coffee and it mattered to her, Daehyun said. I'm not going to abandon her now because it got hard. The warlord looked at him for a long moment. Then he looked up at the stands, at Hana watching with tears streaming down her face. He looked at Empress Nari sitting with perfect posture, her expression unreadable. He looked at the thousands of faces watching this moment. When Ryung spoke again, his voice was quiet but carried across the silent arena. I sought a marriage that would bring me power. That would secure my position. That would make me strong. He turned back to Daehyun. But power without principle is just tyranny, and strength without honor is just brutality. Ryung placed his staff on the ground. I yield, he said clearly. The arena exploded. Humans cheered. Dragonkin shouted in confusion. The noise was deafening, but Daehyun barely heard it. He was too busy trying to process what had just happened. You're yielding to me? No, Ryung said, walking closer. I'm yielding to the principle you represent. I came here to claim a bride through force, through contract and obligation. But you showed me something I had forgotten. True strength is not about power over others. It's about standing for something larger than yourself. The warlord reached out and steadied Daehyun as the human's legs finally gave out. He lowered him gently to the ground. You would have died before yielding, Ryung said. I saw it in your eyes. You would have let me kill you rather than abandon her. When was the last time anyone stood for me like that? When was the last time anyone stood for anything except their own gain? Officials rushed onto the arena floor. Medics surrounded Daehyun, checking his injuries. Taemin was there, his face showing shock and joy. Kwan pushed through the crowd, grinning fiercely. And then Hana was there, pushing past everyone, dropping to her knees beside him. You idiot, she said, crying and laughing at the same time. You wonderful, stupid, brave idiot. Did I win? Daehyun asked. Everything felt distant and fuzzy. You won, she confirmed. Good. That's good. His eyes were closing despite his best efforts. Can I sleep now? You can sleep. Tell your mom. Tell her the trade deal. Ryung should still get. I'll tell her. Rest now. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Hana's face, her scales shimmering with all the colors of hope. The last thing he heard was the crowd chanting something. It took him a moment to realize they were chanting his name. Then he was falling into warm darkness, and for the first time in days he was not afraid. He had kept his promise. He had fought like it mattered. And somehow, impossibly, that had been enough. Daehyun woke up 3 days later in the medical wing. Every part of his body hurt, which he decided was a good sign. Dead people probably did not hurt this much. He's awake, someone said. Footsteps approached. A medical drone scanned him with soft blue light. Broken ribs, cracked collarbone, severe bruising, mild concussion, a doctor said, reading from a tablet. You'll live, but you're going to hurt for a while. Great, Daehyun croaked. His throat was dry. Water appeared at his lips. He drank gratefully, then focused on who was holding the cup. Hana sat beside his bed, looking tired but happy. You've been asleep for 3 days, she said. We were worried. 3 days? He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through his ribs. Don't move, idiot. She helped him lie back down. You nearly died. Several times. Your body needed to recover. Did it work? The trade deal? It worked. My mother and Ryung have been negotiating for the past 2 days. Humanity gets formal trade partnerships with the Iron Scale clan. Ryung gets access to human technology and markets. And I am free from the marriage contract. And nobody has to fight a war. And nobody has to fight a war, she confirmed. Daehyun let out a long breath. Good. That's good. The door opened. Taemin entered, carrying a large basket of fruit. Behind him came Bora, Quan, and to Daehyun's surprise, Empress Nari herself. Everyone bowed to the Empress except Daehyun, who was lying in a medical bed and figured he had an excuse. "You look terrible," Nari said, which was probably true. "Your Majesty," Daehyun said, "thank you for visiting. I came to inform you that the Celestial Talon dynasty formally recognizes humanity as an allied civilization. We have signed treaties for trade, cultural exchange, and mutual defense. Your species is now under our protection and partnership. Because I gave your daughter coffee? Because you proved that your species values honor, courage, and kindness above personal safety. Those are qualities we respect." Nari moved closer. "I am also told that you attempted to include fair terms for Ryung in your proposal, even though he threatened to kill you. He needed something out of this too. Otherwise he would just come back angrier. Most beings would have sought revenge. You sought resolution." The Empress smiled slightly. "My advisors tell me you think like a diplomat, even though you claim to be only a mechanic." "I think like someone who fixes things," Daehyun corrected. "People aren't that different from machines. Everyone needs something to function properly. Find out what they need, help them get it, and the whole system works better." Taemin laughed. "He makes it sound so simple." "It is simple," Daehyun said. "People make it complicated." Nari reached into her robes and pulled out a small case. She opened it, revealing a medal on a silver chain. The medal was shaped like a bridge, with dragonkin script engraved on one side and human writing on the other. "This is the Bridgewalker medal," she explained. "It has been awarded only 7 times in our entire history. It is given to those who connect our civilization with others in ways that benefit both. You are the first human to receive it." She placed the medal on the table beside his bed, then did something that shocked everyone in the room. She bowed. A full formal bow. "You have my respect, Daehyun. You have my gratitude. And you have my friendship, if you wish it." Daehyun did not know what to say. An Empress had just bowed to him. He settled for, "Thank you, Your Majesty." After Nari left, Bora moved closer. "I have news too. The Station Council voted unanimously to promote you to Special Cultural Liaison. It comes with a significant pay raise and better housing." "I don't want a promotion. I just want to fix cooling systems." "Too bad. You're famous now. 2 billion beings watched you fight. Human media has been running stories non-stop. You're called the Coffee Warrior. That's still a terrible name. There are worse things to be called." Quan grinned. "I've been fielding interview requests from every major network. Everyone wants to talk to the human who defeated a dragonkin warlord. I didn't defeat him, he yielded. Because you impressed him. Because you refused to quit. That's even better than a victory." Taemin set the fruit basket down. "I have been appointed as the permanent dragonkin ambassador to Nexus 7, which means we will be seeing much more of each other." "Lucky me," Daehyun said, but he was smiling. Over the next few days, visitors came in a steady stream. The old Velcros merchant Kiro brought him a small carved figure, claiming it would bring luck. Other station residents brought food, gifts, and stories. Children came to see the hero who had fought for kindness. Ryung himself visited on the 5th day. Daehyun was sitting up by then, though movement still hurt. "I wanted to see how you were healing," the warlord said. He looked uncomfortable, as if he was not used to visiting people in medical facilities. "I'll live. Thanks for not hitting harder. I hit as hard as I could. You simply refused to die." Ryung sat in the chair beside the bed. "I have been thinking about what you said, about passing kindness forward, about helping strangers because someone once helped you. And I have decided to implement new policies in my territories. Better treatment for workers, fair wages, protection for the vulnerable." Ryung looked at his hands. "I built my power through strength. But watching you fight, I realized strength alone creates nothing lasting. It only creates fear." "What changed your mind?" "You did. You were willing to die for a principle. For a stranger. I could not remember. The last time I had stood for anything except my own power, it shamed me. They talked for a while longer. About politics, about change, about what it meant to be strong. When Ryung left, he paused at the door. Thank you, Daehyun, for reminding me what honor actually means. After he was gone, Hana appeared. She had been coming every day, sometimes just sitting quietly while Daehyun slept. You don't have to keep visiting, he said. I'm fine, and you're a princess. You probably have important things to do. I am visiting because I want to, she said firmly, and I have a request. What kind of request? I want to stay on the station. I want to learn about other cultures, about humans, about life outside the royal court. She looked nervous. And I want to work in the maintenance bay, with you, as an apprentice. Daehyun blinked. You want to fix cooling systems? I want to learn how to do something useful, something real, not politics or diplomacy or being a symbol, just normal work. It's boring, and dirty, and the pay is bad. I don't need pay. I need purpose. She met his eyes. You showed me that kindness matters more than status, that helping others is worth more than power. I want to learn more about that, about being someone who fixes things instead of just watching them break. Daehyun thought about it, thought about trying to teach a princess how to repair pipe systems and calibrate coolant flows. It was absurd. It would never work. Okay, he said. Okay? Okay. But you have to actually work. No special treatment because you're royalty. Hana smiled, and it was the same smile she had given him when she accepted his coffee. I wouldn't want it any other way. 2 weeks later, Daehyun was back in the maintenance bay. He still hurt, and he moved carefully, but the doctors had cleared him for light duty, which was good, because the cooling system in Section 7 had been acting up and nobody else knew how to fix it. He was elbow deep in the coolant manifold when Hana arrived. She wore coveralls that were too big for her and carried a toolbox that clearly confused her. Where do I start? She asked. Hand me the torque wrench, the one that looks like an L shape. She studied the toolbox, pulled out 3 different tools before finding the right one. Daehyun hid his smile and got back to work. They worked in comfortable silence for a while. Hana asked questions. Daehyun answered. She made mistakes. He corrected her patiently. It was normal, peaceful, exactly what he had missed during the chaos of the past few weeks. The door opened. Taemin walked in, looking amused. So this is where the galaxy's newest heroes spend their time, in a maintenance bay that smells like oil and recycled air. Did you need something? Daehyun asked, not looking up from his work. There's a delegation arriving this afternoon. Dragonkin nobles from 3 different clans. They want to meet the coffee warrior. Tell them I'm busy. I did. They don't care. They want to discuss establishing a cultural exchange program. They want humans to teach their young about. Taemin checked his notes. Compassion-based problem-solving and informal social bonding. They want us to teach them about being nice? Essentially, yes. Your fight with Ryung has caused something of a philosophical revolution among Dragonkin youth. They're questioning the old ways, wondering if strength and honor might mean something different than what they were taught. Daehyun sighed and set down his wrench. Fine, but they come to the bay. I'm not going to some fancy conference room. You want Dragonkin nobles to visit you in a maintenance bay? If they want to learn about human culture, they can learn that we value work over appearances. Tell them to bring coffee if they want to make a good impression. Taemin laughed and shook his head. You're going to change the galaxy and you don't even realize it. After he left, Hana looked at Daehyun with amusement. You could have easier meetings in better locations. Easier isn't always better. If they want to understand humans, they need to see how we actually live and work, not just the formal stuff. Is that what you did with me? Showed me how humans actually are. I gave you coffee because you look sad. That's all. That's all, Hana repeated softly. Just kindness to a stranger. And it changed everything. 3 months later, the maintenance bay had become an unlikely hub of cultural exchange. Dragonkin nobles came to learn about human problem-solving. Velcro's traders came to share coffee and stories. Even some of Ryung's people visited, curious about the human who had changed their warlord's philosophy. Daehyun kept working. He fixed cooling systems and repaired pipe networks. He taught Hana how to calibrate pressure regulators and diagnose electrical faults. And yes, he met with delegations and attended occasional ceremonies. But he always returned to the bay, to the work, to the normalcy. The galaxy was changing. Trade routes opened. New alliances formed. Dragonkin philosophy schools began teaching about the coffee incident as a turning point in how they viewed strength and honor. Human diplomatic training programs started, including Daehyun's approach as a case study in unconventional problem solving. And through it all, Daehyun just kept being himself, kind, practical, willing to help anyone who needed it, whether they were empresses or lost strangers. One evening, as the station lights dimmed to simulate night, Hana sat with him in the bay. They had just finished a particularly difficult repair and were sharing coffee from his thermos. "Do you ever think about how different things could have been?" she asked. "If you had just walked past me that day?" "Sometimes, but I didn't walk past. I stopped. I offered coffee. Everything else just followed from that choice." "That simple choice changed the galaxy." "No," Daehyun corrected gently. "That simple choice reminded people that kindness matters. They're the ones changing the galaxy. I just fixed some cooling systems and tried not to die." Hana laughed. "You're impossible. You saved my life, created a new alliance between civilizations and started a philosophical movement, and you act like you just did your job." "I did just do my job. My job is to fix things that are broken. Sometimes that's cooling systems. Sometimes it's misunderstandings between species. The principle is the same. Find the problem, understand what's needed, provide the solution." "Exactly." They sat in comfortable silence, drinking coffee as the station hummed around them. Outside the windows, ships came and went, carrying goods and people and ideas across the galaxy. Human ships, dragonkin ships, Velcross vessels and craft from a dozen other civilizations, all of them connected now, in ways large and small, because one mechanic had offered coffee to a lost stranger. "Thank you," Hana said quietly. "For what?" "For not walking past. For seeing someone who needed help and choosing to care. For showing me that there's more to life than duty and obligation." She touched his hand. "For being kind when you didn't have to be." Daehyun squeezed her hand gently. "Someone once told me that the smallest act of kindness can change everything. I didn't really believe it until now. Do you believe it now?" He looked around the bay, at the tools he used every day, at the coffee thermos that had started everything, at Hana, who had become his friend and apprentice, at the window showing the station full of beings from across the galaxy, all living and working together in ways that had seemed impossible just months ago. "Yeah," he said. "I believe it." The galaxy turned. Ships traveled. Civilizations grew and changed, and in a small maintenance bay on orbital station Nexus 7, a human mechanic and a dragonkin princess fixed cooling systems and shared coffee, and proved every single day that kindness mattered more than power. Some bonds were forged in grand ceremonies, others were built in quiet moments over simple gestures, and sometimes the most important thing you could do was offer someone a cup of coffee when they looked like they needed it. Everything else was just details.